Hi, welcome to the BMW Clubsport channel. Right, so today I'm just going to have a little inspection underneath the car. I've got a very small oil leak. It is oil, I've determined that, and I just need to know where it's coming from. Now, my car underneath, as you can imagine, as most cars, they get filthy underneath. There's all sorts of stuff on there. Some oil's been, and grease and grime and stuff, it's been underneath the car for years and years and years. So a couple of weeks ago I used some gunk, some degreaser, and I brushed all underneath the engine, under all the dirty parts where I could see, and then I jet washed underneath, and it became clean and dry and lovely. So there was no oil, or there was no grease under there that if it dripped I knew it wasn't coming off that. So let's say I go out in the car, everything heats up in the engine and the gearbox, and then that would loosen any oil that was residual underneath, whether it be from the sump or whether it be on the gearbox, wherever. And then you come back and you park the car, and now because all the oil is thinned out because of the heat, of course it will drip, and it might be coming from just residual oil that's been on the engine for years, maybe something where I've spilt some or something. So the idea of cleaning the underneath was just to eliminate any of that. So the underneath 2 weeks ago was really clean, at least in all the places I could reach. I didn't want to take off the metal shroud underneath the sump to protect the sump. I didn't want to take that off because it seemed going a bit far. But if the drip is reaching onto the floor, then it's not hitting the metal shroud. So if we come into the garage, you'll see that I get this constant drip right here. It's just a little one. It's 1 or 2 drips every time I park. Now, when I park, my door mirrors reach here, about here, and that lines up with me closing the garage. So if the door mirrors are there and that is there, this looks like it's somewhere, I don't know whether it's between the gearbox and the engine. It could be that, or it could be something else. But at least now that it started dripping again, it took at least 4 days of me using the car for the drips to start appearing again. So now when I jack the car up, I'll be able to have hopefully a more pinpoint location of where that drip's coming from. So what I'm going to do now is jack the car up high enough. I'm going to get a axle stand under the suspension, and we'll have a crawl underneath and see what's what. Okay, we have the car jacked. My jack looks like it's all twisted. Look at what it's done to the ground here. Yeah, I got this wheel's off the ground, but I've got my axle stand underneath just in case anything. It's not actually touching that wishbone. I don't want it to really touch it unless the car's going to have a fall, but I don't want to knock it out the way either. But it seems I'll just have to be careful. Okay, so I can already tell where the leak's coming from, so let me just adjust my mat and I'll show you. Okay, so as we get under the car, we have the sump guard with the usual gap. The plate is always missing, and we can see in here, if I can get some focus, that it's all happening there. And we have leaks up here as well. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. But I don't think I cleaned that, and that's all around the same place. It's the sump. So the sump is getting wet. Gearbox looks fine. That is just a wipe I did just now. You can see the drip right here. If you can see that, I don't know if I'm in focus, but right there. So I think I can say with a degree of safety that it is in fact the sump, because this is where the oil gets drained. Now I could cross my fingers and hope it's the fact that I didn't tighten the oil nut enough, and it might be leaking out of there. It could be coming from here, from the drain plug. It could be coming from the drain plug, but I doubt it, because all of the leakage, even if it was coming from the drain plug, it wouldn't get up. It wouldn't get up to the top of the sump there, and all around the sump is leaking. So that's a bit of a bugger, because I know in order to fix that, let me just come out. In order to fix that, you need to undo the subframe and hold the engine into, you've got to put that what do you call it, the bar that goes across I can't think of the name, I've blanked. The bar that goes across the engine bay, and you chain it onto the engine so the engine doesn't drop, and then you undo the subframe underneath, and you have to drop that in order to get the sump off. That's probably a little bit beyond my means. I don't have the bar. I could probably get one, but I'd rather leave this to a mechanic, so I'm probably going to get that sorted. And if I do get it sorted, or when I get it sorted, I'm going to make sure that when they do this, that the nut that the nut that you get in on the oil, oh god, I've gone completely blank now. When you take the sump off, there's an oil thing that has a nut on it. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, I can't remember the name. It has an oil thing, a nut on there, that if that works its way loose, you're in a bit of trouble. So I'm gonna, is it an oil pump? I think it's the oil pump. But then you've either got to retighten the nut and put some wire through so it can't come off, or there's another route you can go where you have like a nut and bolt solution. So I'm gonna have to look into that, all with money I don't have. So I need to find out what it's going to cost to get my sump, the oil pan gasket replaced. It's just the labor, really. Yeah. Okay, that's the source of the leak. I kind of suspected it was, but even if it isn't, even if it, let's just pretend it's the drain plug. It isn't, but let's pretend it is. I still want to do that job on the car, because I don't think it's ever been done. The car's got 153,000 miles on it now, so it's never been changed, so it needs doing. And also, doing that job means fixing the oil pump nut if it's loose, which will be a really good thing to do, because that can save your engine, because these are known to work their way loose. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, they can only work their way loose in most cases when, you know, you're a boy racer and you're drifting and you're wheel spinning and you're putting a lot of pressure on the engine. Then it can work its way loose. Or maybe if you've boosted your car turbo supercharged, you're putting more power through the engine. I think it's more liable to be working its way loose then. But under normal driving conditions it should be okay. Now, I'm not a boy racer. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. I like speed, but I'm no longer the idiot that I used to be. So I don't know, but I don't know about the previous owners of this car, of which it's had 10 previous owners. But hey, let me tell you something, okay? In the same way that mileage doesn't really matter that much when you're buying a car, neither does the amount of owners. People say, how many owners, how many owners? You go, 10. And you go, oh no, 10. And they get put off the car. However, would you rather have a car that had 3 previous owners, but they didn't really look after it too well, didn't take them for their regular services, and, you know, generally didn't maintain the car properly? Or would you rather have had a car that's had 10 previous owners, like in this case, where every single owner who owned this car before I did has taken this car for its regular servicing? This car, up until I owned it, because I've done my own servicing on it since I owned it. I bought this car when it had 131,000 on it, so I've done like 22,000 miles. The car came with a full BMW service history, so every owner who's had this car has looked after it. It's had its proper servicing at BMW every single time. I have a book full of receipts. So I know that every owner before me has looked after this car, and I would rather have that I would rather have a folder full of service receipts and a book full of stamps to say, yes, this has been serviced by BMW, than a car that hasn't got that but's only had 3 owners. Okay, so that's my take on it. It doesn't matter the owners, and again, same with the mileage. You can have a car that's got 150,000 miles, you can have a car that's got 80,000. Find out which one has been looked after better, which one's got the most history, the most service stamps, which one's been, you know, looked after the most and maintained the most. Make your decision on that, because how the car has been looked after by previous owners counts a lot. Okay, that's me for today, quick one. And yeah, I'm going to pop to a garage down the road now, and I'm just going to ask them what a ballpark figure would be to have a sump gasket replaced. Yeah, if they give me a decent price, or they give me a price, I will let you know right at the end of this video. See you in a while.